Tonight on our news, empowered, hundreds of taxi drivers to get their own plates. And outraged, a mother pleads for justice for her son 2 years after his murder. And later, find out the opportunity that may put hundreds back to work. Welcome to our news. I'm Candino Knowles. Thanks for joining us. For the first time in 3 decades, just over 200 taxi drivers will soon be issued their own taxi plates, doing away with the age-old practice of leasing. Berthany McDermott has more on what this major shift will mean.
Taxi drivers now breathing a sigh of relief as several cab drivers gathered at Loyola Hall to get taxi plates. The move comes after a 30-year moratorium was removed, cab drivers hailing it as a plus.
I think this is a great liberation for many Bahamian individuals. So I salute the ministry for doing this and availing themselves of whatever political agendas and making it available to everyone.
It eliminates having to rent or lease a plate now, and that's, revenue that you can use for something else.
Taxi Cab Union President Wesley Ferguson says the last time taxi plates were issued was back in 1992. Since then, anyone looking to get into the industry had to lease plates.
We were operating in an industry that was 15% owned by the participants or the taxi drivers and 85% owned by exterior people who had taxi plates, just leasing and enslaving taxi drivers.
He said moving forward, the union will be the management body of taxi plates.
To manage those people who have plates, who are incapacitated, who are sick, who are retired, and who just don't have the money to buy a car. So then what we're going to do is purchase cars, put these plates on, put a driver in it, so it's just totally legal.
Now, according to Minister Responsible JoBeth Colby-Davis, 180 taxi plates have already been issued. She said the plan is to give some relief to those taxi drivers that's been dealing with this issue for a number of years.
Want to give them their freedom today and give a little bit more empowerment to them. And so that's the start of it. It's not to take the plates away from who actually has them now and issue it to the person that's driving. It's just to give that driver their own plate.
Reporting for Our News, I'm Berthany McDermott.
Meanwhile, the Bahamas Taxi Cab Union is also lobbying for a 30% increase in fares amid rising fuel prices. Last month, the taxi union leader and Labor Minister Keith Bell discussed a request for the fare hike. Union President Wesley Ferguson saying they were initially asking for a 25% increase.
We proposed to her to give us a 30% raise across the board to defray the cost of rising fuel prices. And we throw some numbers around, and it's now in the process of being analyzed by the minister on those financial sector in the Ministry of Transport, and we are hopeful that we will get a response from the minister very, very soon.
Transport Minister JoBeth Colby-Davis telling Our News that a request was made, but that nothing will be done until it is brought to Cabinet. The Transport Minister also detailing a relief package that she says government hopes will lighten the burden for bus drivers. Natalia Hall has that.
During the weekly press briefing, Transport Minister JoBeth Colby-Davis announcing that a relief package will be offered to bus drivers. Now, you may remember at the beginning of the COVID-19 pandemic, bus drivers were only allowed 50% occupancy.
I have just sent the last bit of documents that were requested from the Financial Secretary and the Minister of Finance, and they are reviewing, and then they should be presenting me with the relief package, what we can provide now to get us through this period, and then reconsider discussions related to the increase in fares.
The relief package is expected to be distributed before the end of the month. And as for when bus fares will be reconsidered by Cabinet,
I am hoping to re-engage that discussion probably in another 6 months. Yeah, so the relief package I hope would carry us through the period until I'm able to get back to a place where I can present more options that they would be able to consider.
Meantime, a unified bus system is expected to be implemented soon.
We're actually on a good path to getting some clarity on how we will manage our bus transportation. And so we will be discussing more options at town halls, but preparing as well to present a scope that to the Cabinet that they will consider for a unified, more controlled busing program.
Reporting for Our News, I'm Natalia Hall.
Bahamas Power and Light cannot absorb the increase of the rising cost of fuel, and Works Minister Alfred Sears says it's likely that government may have to step in and help. He explains why at this week's Office of the Prime Minister's press briefing.
So there are only two options. One is to pass it on to the consumer, or for the government to provide a subvention to pay. And the Prime Minister has made it very clear that the government is committed to providing a measure of safeguard.
We're learning that domes over in Abaco are about to be demolished. We have more on that coming up, but first it's time for your first look at temperatures. Meteorologist Greg Thompson is standing by in the Weather Center. Greg?
Thanks, Kendina. Welcome everybody for our first look at weather on this comfortable Thursday evening. Temperatures in the low to mid 80s, 83 outside our studios with just a few clouds. Your winds are out of the east. Still a little bit on the breezy side at 15 miles per hour, and your feels like temperature. Comfortable 85 degrees on the outside. Satellite view around the islands. Ridge-of-high pressure dominates our weather at the surface. That's continuing to provide some breezy conditions across the central and southeast Bahamas. There is a weak tropical wave moving across the southeast Bahamas. You notice a couple of clouds associated with that wave moving towards the west. A couple of isolated showers down there. We expect that wave to continue moving towards the west as well. And then we have a couple of isolated showers to the north of the Bahamas. Comfortable evening tonight, and we could see one or two more showers later on tomorrow. That's your first look at weather. Your extended forecast is still to come.
All right, thanks a lot, Greg. Well, still to come on our news. Domes previously reported being used as brothels to be demolished. Plus, the heart-wrenching story of an outraged mother 2 years after her 4-year-old son was killed. And a former parliamentarian is remembered. It's all coming up when our news returns. Domes that were erected on the island of Abaco shortly after Hurricane Dorian and were recently reportedly being used as brothels are expected to be demolished by the end of the summer. The transport minister says a team is currently in Abaco issuing letters to residents.
We already have a site plan created by the Department of Housing, and I think that property can hold about 11 homes. And so we're hoping to start working on that very soon.
And Prime Minister Philip Davis shooting down the opposition's suggestion that Dorian deaths could be handled by the coroner's court. This as parliamentarians were debating an amendment to the Evidence Act that allows for a person to be presumed dead after they have not been heard from for 2 or more years following a natural disaster. In September 2019, the Category 5 storm devastated Abaco and Grand Bahama. Many died and others were reported missing by family members.
This concept that the coroner's court could deal with it, and they may have been dealing with, is fallacy.
And there has been some controversy surrounding the Prime Minister's recent travel, and Health Minister Dr. Michael Darville is the latest cabinet minister defending the nation's leader.
I've had the opportunity to be with him, and I could say this much for the record, that some heavy lifting has already been done, and it is all in the best interest of the Bahamian people in order for us to move from where we are to where we need to go to rejuvenate our economy.
There have been a number of police-involved shootings in recent times, and the cry from the public is release the footage. The Minister of National Security explaining when and why footage is often withheld from the public. Our Megan Shepard reports.
Minister of National Security Wayne Monroe addressing police-involved shootings and the public's call for the release of body cam footage. Monroe explaining that this is generally not the policy of the police force.
If it's a matter that's going to be going either to a coroner's court or a Supreme Court, it won't be made available generally in terms of tainting a jury pool, because if you release it, then nobody can say they have not seen it before, and you can't sit juries.
He says the public should understand that police face a tough job.
But if young men continue to be armed, continue to have a will to be discharging a firearm 20, 30 times on a site, and therefore challenge a policeman, the policeman will have two choices: to defend himself and us, or to be shot and killed. I do not expect any reasonable human being not to protect themselves. That's the simple part about it.
Monroe adding that oftentimes persons make false claims. However, there is always a camera around that could expose the truth, whether CCTV, body cam footage, or private citizen video.
I have said to the Commissioner of Police, the past and the current, that when we find people telling lies, and we can tell that they're telling lies because we have camera footage of it, we need to prosecute them so they can go to prison, so people can learn to stop making false reports, and then they could take less police time.
Reporting for Our News, I'm Megan Shepard.
And Police Commissioner Clayton Fernander looking to create a ceasefire unit within the Royal Bahamas Police Force due to the rapid rise in homicides. The murder count now stands at 76, and that's according to Our News records. The announcement coming during the official handover ceremony for the commissioner this week.
You are seeing 2-3 homicides a day. So that unit is mandate is to go after. The statistics is speaking to us and is telling us who the players are. So their focus and their strategy is to go out there to disrupt, and we have the intel which is working for us at the same time so that we are able to build evidence to connect these individuals and put them where they belong, behind bars.
It's now time for tonight's Financial Market Minute, brought to you by RF, your local investment bank. This has been your Financial Market Minute. To explore the best performing mutual funds in the Bahamas, visit our website at www.rfgroup.com.
When Our News comes back from the break, the story of that mother fighting for justice for her 4-year-old son. Plus, a former parliamentarian is remembered. And find out the cruise line helping to put hundreds back to work. We have all the details when Our News returns. This is Our News. Welcome back. A woman is outraged that nearly 2 years after her 4-year-old son was shot and killed, no one has been charged for his death. The woman's husband was also killed in the incident. Jared Higgs has her story tonight.
34-year-old Antonia Green is outraged that nearly 2 years after her 4-year-old son, Jeremy Green, and her husband, 35-year-old Jamoric Green, were murdered, no arrests have been made in the matter.
What I've been through, I know they don't care. They might come on the news and play like they so care and so concerned and, oh, I'm so sorry for what happened. Oh, no, they don't. They're not sorry.
The man and child were gunned down in Rock Sound, Duluth on October 3rd, 2020. Green, who is living abroad now, witnessed the horrifying attack. According to the still grieving mother, her son's last words were a plea for her to get the doctor.
I don't care if it was me involved. If I had to get killed, to hell with me, to hell with my husband. We done live our life, and all of us, let me tell you something. Everybody who could sin now, we all have sinned, but my son didn't know nothing about sin as yet. He don't know nothing about no gun, no lying, no killing, no nothing as yet. That's a child, that's a baby. He was a baby.
I spoke to Green over the phone. She is currently residing in an undisclosed location outside the Bahamas. She has 3 other children. Her 3-year-old and 1-year-old were also present during the attack and were briefly kidnapped when the killers drove off with them in the vehicle. She says she suffers from mental health issues and has tried tirelessly to contact various officials to draw attention to the case.
My son was an alienate. He didn't exist in this world. Like, I wish he was like more Canadian or he born in the United States. I know they wasn't going to stop till they get whoever did it.
A distraught Green says her son was shot in the thigh and bled out. He was killed just 2 days before he was meant to start virtual school at Greencastle Primary School. His dream was to be a police officer.
That's all I want. Justice. That's all. I ain't looking for no handout. I don't want the government help me. The only thing I want them to do is bring whoever involved, whoever did it, bring them down.
Reporting for Our News, I'm Jared Higgs.
Thanks a lot, Jared. Well, the fight against climate change has been a hot topic for some time now, and just this week, our nation taking the initiative to host the first regional youth conference on the issue. The event is the first of its kind, bringing together youth from around the region to discuss issues on climate change. Megan Shepard has more.
The fight to stop and reverse climate change has new faces. Young people who live in small, developing island nations in the Caribbean are now at the forefront. Minister of Education and Technical and Vocational Training, Glenys Hannah Martin, noting that this conference allows future generations to secure their future.
We have brought together, and I'm very proud the Bahamas has been able to host the first annual. But we have brought together young minds from all over the region, and I'm told from some from the world, throughout the world, outside of the region, to come together, to use your good common sense, to use your intellect, to bring your passion, and to bring your conviction to this issue. Because this issue does not just affect some buildings or some trees. It affects lives, our economies, everything.
Minister of the Environment and Natural Resources, Fawn Miller, emphasizing the continuing negative effects of climate change. He says now is the time for young people to take the helm of change, as they are the inheritors of the planet.
Young people, for far too long, we have not taken you seriously. Oftentimes, we have ignored your input and have relegated your experiences and input to just, quote, voices on the side, end quote. But those of you here today who would have attended previous international climate change meetings know all too well what I'm talking about. But as of today, it's going to be a different story.
Minister with responsibility for youth, Mario Boleg, adding that young people are valuable contributors to the fight, whether through education, science, technology, or everyday action.
Young people are able to organize and take bold climate change initiatives nationally and regionally. From bench cleanups and recycling efforts to expanding and promoting the use of reusable products, young people have the power to act now.
At the end of the conference, the ideas will be presented to the government. Reporting for Our News, I'm Megan Shepard.
Former Free National Movement Cabinet Minister and House Speaker Vernon Simonet has died. He was 84. Simonet, who was born in Anagua, was a member of the team that led the Free National Movement to victory back in 1992. He's survived by his wife Phyllis and his 5 children. FNM leader Michael Pintard speaking with Our News about his legacy.
As the Speaker of the House, he's known as a statesman, someone who was able to moderate the debate in a fair, controlled manner. But at the end of the day, you didn't walk away from that experience with him, believing that he was not prepared to let you have your say.
All right, and our thoughts and prayers are with the Simonet family during this time. Well, don't go away. Greg, he's back in the Weather Center with your extended weather forecast. And later, if you or someone you know is on the job hunt and we've got just the opportunity that might put you back to work, it's all coming up when Our News returns. This is Our News. Welcome back. It's time now for your extended weather forecast. And meteorologist Greg Thompson is back in the Weather Center with a look at conditions for the rest of the week. Greg?
Thanks again, Kendino, and welcome back everybody for our second look at weather. Ridge of high pressure at the surface dominating our weather. It's continuing to produce some breezy conditions across the central and southeast Bahamas. There's also a tropical wave that's moving through the southeast Bahamas that's interacting with an upper level low that's helping to trigger some showers and some isolated thunderstorms across that area. All of that will be moving towards the west. That ridge will remain in charge of our weather throughout the rest of the weekend into the weekend. The There's a frontal boundary to the north that we expect to get near by the end of the weekend and into early next week. That could enhance some showers across the northwest Bahamas by that time. The tropics quiet. We have a lot of Saharan dust out there in the open Atlantic, and that's inhibiting any kind of formation of any of those tropical waves as they continue to push towards the west, and the tropics remaining quiet for the next 5 days. Boating forecast for the northwest Bahamas tonight through tomorrow. Your winds will be out of the southeast at 15 knot, seas running 3 to 5 feet over the ocean. Your low tide will be at 9:02 tonight. For the central and southeast Bahamas, a caution flag in place for you guys still. East to southeasterly winds 15 to 20 knots. Your seas will be running 4 to 6 feet over open waters. Here's a look now at your national forecast. In your extended forecast for the next 7 days, we're looking at some isolated showers throughout the remainder of the week and into early next week. That frontal boundary, as I mentioned, getting in here sometime by the end of the week and into early next week. Could lend some shower activity, but those temperatures will remain hot and those nighttime temperatures very warm. That's a look at our weather. Make it a safe evening, everybody.
All right, thanks a lot, Greg. Well, Royal Caribbean Cruise Line's job fair is back, and they say they're hoping to help hundreds of Bahamians get jobs through the fair that kicked off today and continues tomorrow. Marlena Leonard was there and has more on the process.
Today and tomorrow here at the National Training Agency, the Royal Caribbean Group is offering some big opportunities for Bahamians seeking work. Come with us as we find out more about this two-day job fair. Royal Caribbean Private Destinations recruiter Leslie Gibson says applicants from all across the country are showing interest in working with Royal Caribbean. The two-day fair is their chance to do just that. It's an easy process.
We have a number of our managers here on site who'll be able to conduct those interviews. From those interviews, we'll have candidates complete our application, whereas they'll be able to accept the offers for those candidates who are successful.
Over 40 positions are available on Coco Key. They're also hoping to have more Bahamians working on their ships.
We're also interviewing for all other positions, our technical and engineering positions, because of course we'll be able to add those candidates to pipeline for whenever a position becomes available.
And Gibson wants you to know there's definitely room to grow. He says he started in one of the jobs available today, and just a year later, he was promoted to his current position and is now based in Miami.
Being the first Bahamian to actually do it, and I don't expect to be the last. I hope to, of course, bring up a whole lot of Bahamians to come along with me.
The recruiter says they hope to see at least 500 candidates between today and tomorrow, and says Royal Caribbean is planning to hire as many as they can. Reporting for our news, I'm Marlena Leonard.
All right, thanks a lot, Marlena. And to learn more about this and all of today's top stories, be sure and visit Our News Bahamas on Facebook. Thank you for joining us for Our News tonight. On behalf of the entire team, I'm Candino Knowles. We'll see you right back here tomorrow night. Until then, have a wonderful evening.